Welcome to TAMA Talks, brought to you by the Torrance Art Museum Advocates. I'm Janine Madden, current TAMA president, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Today, we will be discussing work which is currently on view in the main gallery at the Torrance Art Museum in a show called Risky Business, a Painter's Forum, curated by Marie Thibeault and Max Presneill. The focus of the show seeks to address how the concerns and expectations of AI begin to dominate the narrative in our increasingly technologically dependent society, and how some artists reply with the personal mark, with risk-taking, chance, the unknown endpoint, the illogical, and the mystery to produce a reflection of a living, very human experience. The exhibition is on view through May 4th, and the museum is located at 3320 Civic Center Drive in Torrance. It's open from Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. and admission is always free and donations are gratefully accepted. This discussion is being recorded and will be posted to our YouTube channel with all of our previous TAMA Talks. You can access it from our website, www.tamadvocates.com. Today, we are joined by artist Audrey Tulimiero Welch. Hopefully I got that right. Audrey is an internationally exhibited painter who currently, I have you in San Francisco, is that right?
That's
Wonderful.
right.
And you received your BFA from the University of Delaware and your MFA from the Art Institute of Boston at Lesley University. Your abstract layered paintings can be read as metaphoric maps that contain in their embedded layers personal stories and lived relationships of daily life. From 2002 to 2016, you lived and worked in countries of the Pacific Rim, which led you to explore the subjects of mapping and place as starting points for a painting. Similar to the way maps navigate geographic destinations, you use the pictorial language of line, gesture, color, and form to lead viewer to sites that are familiar and unknown, personal and universal. And we are so thrilled to have you here with us today. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you so much, Janine. And I just wanted to give a shout out of thanks to the curators, Marie Thibeault and Max Presneill, for putting together what for me has been literally like a life-changing exhibit to be a part of. The show has one outstanding piece after the other. It's 20 painters, 20 paintings. The caliber of the work is at such a high level. I would encourage everyone to make sure you get there to see it. And I just share one big takeaway for me as an artist at a mid-career level of my work is the reminder of how important it is to engage in dialogue with my fellow artists. That 4 days I spent in LA and meeting the 20 painters was so nourishing for my practice. I'm still glowing from it. So just a big thank you for the real privilege of being included in Risky Business.
That's so nice to hear. And I have to say, in speaking with some of the other artists, I spoke with John Getz yesterday, said the same thing. And so I think that is also kind of this peripheral goal of Max's in particular, to bring artists together, regardless of, whether you're emerging or mid-career or well-established. I think that's one of the things that he does very, very well. And it's wonderful to see. So thank you so much. So we're going to navigate through. This is the piece that's on view currently. Yes?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm just going to let you kind of drive this
Sure.
train. So you let me know when you need me to advance, and I will follow your lead.
Sure. So the title of this piece is Singing Tree. It's a 48 by 48 acrylic, flash, spray paint. And as we'll go on and talk, my process is multi-layered. It's really a lot about layers, but I did want to share with the viewers a little of the backstory of this painting. Not every painting has such a specific backstory, but this painting recalls a conversation I had with a dear friend who has a special tree on her property that she spends time with on her walks. The tree for her has a spiritual significance, and she's named her tree the singing tree. And we talked at length a little bit about that and how that has what that has meant to her. So there's sort of a give and take with her as she sits with this tree. And all that, although this painting has deeply complex surface of overlapping gestural paint, of high contrast hues, and intersecting linear structures, there's a central tree motif that grounds and stills the frenzied energy. So, working within a set of radical layering strategies, my process favors improvisation, chance, and intuitive risk taking. So that's just a little background. And then if you go to the next slide, Janine, here's a few just showing the piece installed at the Torrance.
Yeah, several artists have spoken about this curatorial gift that Max has, and in this case, Marie as well, in positioning pieces near others where they always enhance and rarely, if ever, compete. It's
Yeah,
kind of cool.
Yeah. And here I just want to take you through a few slides because there's strategies of layers that I go through. And even though the process is quite improvisational, I do spend time beforehand thinking about the layers I want to use. And some of those layers are, you'll see I use a taping and a masking layer. I use a plaster layer. This painting in particular started probably 2 years before it was finished. And I was so frustrated with not being able to move it forward. I decided I'm going to do a bold move. And I put this black grid across the whole surface. And then when I saw it again 2 years later, I had just started introducing some mountain water-based spray paint into my arsenal of materials. And I did another bold move and I decided to just make some marks with the spray paint. So that's what this piece is showing. You'll see some green coming through.
Yeah.
That green is a taping layer. So it's like a passage of time. So that tape at the end will be pulled and it will reveal what was there previously.
So there's an underpainting underneath that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think the next slide is the video. So let's see if I can make this happen.
So I'm not talking in this video, but what I'm showing you, these layers, I use tape, but this is showing you a masking fluid layer that was put on the painting before a lot of gestural paint was put on top. So here I'm tearing that masking fluid. And it's a terrifying part of the process because you never know after you pull it if it's going to integrate and work with the whole, right? So, but I just wanted to give viewers a sense of how much, in a way, some destruction happens in the process.
It reminds me of the what rubber cement.
Yes, but on a very large scale. And this is a latex masking fluid, and you can buy it in large quantities, which obviously I need.
Do all of your works incorporate this material?
I started using it about 1.5 years ago, and the reason I started using it in addition to the tape, you can see in this photo, the tape gives you, and I just pulled some tape, that white line. It gives you that nice hard edge linear geometric line, and that's one thing I'm interested in. But the masking fluid gives me a curvilinear, rounded form, and I want to juxtapose those two forms. And that's it.
So what you've put, I'm going to slide to
Yeah.
this piece. So what you're saying is that you paint and then you apply the latex and then you let it dry and then you paint over it and then you remove it. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, so this should have been probably before, but this is the piece with the latex underneath.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So this is before pulling,
Yes, that's right.
pre-pull. Wow.
And there's
And
also
it's interesting that you have an image of it beforehand, because is this, no, it's this, is this this? No,
yes, and then go ahead. Is that the next slide?
the next slide is this slide.
Okay, so if you go back to that one before, that's just showing you there and then next.
Okay. So
Okay. And
this
yes,
is this
yes, that's right. Being pulled.
in the pull.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool
Yeah.
process. Cool
It's quite a
process.
physical process. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say that you really have to, you must have to psych yourself up to be in the pulling mood. All right, the next piece.
Yeah, the next piece, going way, way back to sort of the basics of why create art, like, and the next question, why paint? I've chosen painting. So I just wanted to share that my driving force to paint is the unquenchable desire to embody in pictorial form the capacity of the human spirit to transform and endure. Defying the strictly referential, I work abstractly. My emotive abstract paintings explore themes of resiliency, map connectivity, and speak to how our wounds can become their own kind of fuel, their own kind of illumination.
Yeah, it's very profound. And I think that before we read ahead, when you talked about that ability to transform and endure, resiliency is what came into my mind immediately. So this particular image is titled Fuel.
Yeah. So
Yeah, to expand a little, if you would.
yeah, sure. So that was in preparation for a solo show in 2020 at the Russo Lee Gallery in Portland, and I was inspired by a book I read by Greg Boyle. You might have heard of Greg Boyle. He has been working with the gangs in LA
Yeah,
for over 30 years.
is he a priest?
He's a Jesuit,
Right,
and
right.
he has a whole philosophy about kinship, and it's very moving. But his book, I believe it's Barking to the Choir, where he has this line about how our wounds can become fuel and their own kind of illumination. It was very moving to me because it was happening at a time in my own life where one of our kids was going through a really tough time in their life, and with a lot of despair and pain. And it really helped me through. And I would show up at the studio and feeling bereft, and knowing that it was just important to show up and do the work. So, and it was so, a woman came to the show who knew Greg Boyle, who read the book, who completely understood about this. And she ended up purchasing most of the show. It was pretty phenomenal. Yeah.
Wow, that
Yeah. Yeah.
again, that serendipity, that's just that kind of confluence of events that all seem to come together at once.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very moving.
All right, continuing on.
Yeah. So I thought just giving you a little snippet of my origins. So I grew up in New Jersey, on the East Coast, and these are some of the woods I would walk through. And it occurred to me later that this is a good metaphor for what I'm interested in pictorially. If you look at this image, you see the curve of the vine and this very upright structure of the tree. And in a pictorial language, that's what I'm interested in exploring how the abstract gesture and the curve interacts with a more geometric structure. And so that influence I can see in nature, and walks in nature have always been very important. Yeah, in the work.
Well, I'm going to just pop back up, because if you can kind of solidify this piece in your brain, it's there.
Yeah.
I
Yes.
see it right there, and
Yes.
so it's amazing that you predicated this on your friend's singing tree, but at the same time, when you compare it to this, it's an abstract version of this. It's
Mhm.
amazing. When was this piece done? Or when did you
This
take
is
this?
just this is
Is a
just a photograph.
photograph.
It's just a photograph. And
Okay.
then another part of my history is from 2002 to 2016. With our young family, we moved overseas for 15 years. And I was chasing my husband's career at the time. And I was able to continue to paint in each location and continue. I was like having my own residencies in 3 countries. So because of moving and having to be in a new country with new customs and codes, I began to think of, how do I assimilate myself into this place? And one way to do that was to look at maps of my place. And as I started looking at these maps, so this is a map of downtown Bangkok, which was our second location. Our first location was Sumatra, Indonesia, then Bangkok, and then Western Australia. And in each location, we were there 5 years. But as I looked at maps and started studying maps, I realized I was very interested in the diagrammatic drawing of the map. Like, the maps became linear drawings for me. And I started referencing these linear elements actually in the paintings. And I did that with taping.
Again, you talk about that, the geometry, the straight lines of the streets, but then you have that curvilinear form of what I'm assuming is a waterway.
Right, right.
So it's, again, really just, okay.
You got it. So
Yeah.
here's just showing you the taping part of the process. And underneath the tape are large transfers of maps and trees. So those are 2 imagery that I put down literally, and they're a good starting place for me. It's like a jumping off point for me to jump into the painting. And because I've taped them, they're gonna stay and reemerge in the final piece. So there'll be these graphic elements that appear.
Hopefully I got the order right here. Let's see.
And then this, I'm just reiterating, I've come to see that my process can be simpled down to conceal and reveal. I bury a lot of elements in my painting surfaces. I'm attracted to methodologies that allow me to conceal and reveal. Why, I ask myself, is this methodology an important strategy? On a formal level, it allows for complex and interesting spatial relationships. I'm very interested in dynamic space and having the viewer be able to move through the space of the painting. Um, from a more personal perspective, this laying down and covering up reflects a rhythm of growth and transformation found in nature, our bodies, and life itself.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. All of that conveyed in this one piece. It's amazing. All right.
And then I thought I'd close with just sharing a few installations of recent shows of the work. And this one happened in 2022 at Nancy Toomey Fine Art in San Francisco. And it was titled Songlines, taking some of what I experienced in Western Australia and what I learned about the indigenous culture there, and the tradition of walking and singing their walkabouts,
Yeah.
singing the rocks and the water and the natural elements and the animals and the creatures. And these songs are passed on from generation to generation. And I just loved how another layer of how using line in my work could actually have an element of singing, of moving through space like a song. So that's sort of what I grounded this body of work in.
And in 2002, so that, it's interesting, given the title of the current piece you have in the show, how it all sort of weaves together, right?
Yeah.
Does the piece, the rectangular piece on the far wall, is
Mhm.
there a map behind that? It to me, it's very map-like.
Yeah. So you mean those linear structures, are they
Yes,
maps?
underneath.
Yes, they're referencing maps. Yeah.
Yes.
And then most recently, in March this year, my solo show titled Approaching the Still Point of Turbulence opened at the Rusoli Gallery in Portland. And they have a art dealers group called TATA. So it made the cover. So I was just showing you the left side, and then inside was another piece. And I showed with Michael Spafford from Seattle.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. We have a few more pieces.
Yeah.
Feel free
And
to
this is just
expound.
yeah, to show you an installation of that show in Portland at the Rusoli, with several of the pieces there. Um, the central piece is titled Live On, Child. And sometimes a piece evolves from a very personal memory. And this piece sort of sat at my studio for a while. I was a little bit kind of just letting it germinate, not sure what to do. And I remembered a poem my brother wrote. So this was my middle brother, who unfortunately died of AIDS. And I was with him in the hospital a couple days before he died. And he was writing this poem about, I think he had a personal sense of that he was moving on, that he was going to move into the light. And he titled it Live On, Child. And I found the poem and I read it, and I wrote the poem on the painting.
Yeah.
And from that kind of gestalt, it
Mhm, mhm.
it allowed the painting to I engaged again, and I was able to finish it. So
Yeah,
it's really a homage to my brother.
it's amazing, that kind of inspirational, deeply emotional, inspirational, impetuses that we see in our lives that will spur us on to complete a process for something that, like you said, may be stagnant or sitting for a while. So
Right. And just wanted to bring us back to risky business, which again, I think Max and Marie have put together some groundbreaking paintings as a group that are strikingly um, shocking.
yeah,
They're
yes.
like shocking in how dynamic each one is and the conversations they're having with each other. Um, I really do. I have this little hope that it could travel. I think it would be a fabulous traveling exhibition because
Wow.
it's showing what abstract painting in particular, there is some recognizable imagery in some of the work, for sure. But predominantly, I'd have to say it leans towards abstraction and the power of of that modality today.
And one of the things too, I see often, depending on the demographic, of course, is that the TAM traditionally shows quite a bit of abstract art, and so abstract contemporary art, and so oftentimes that's one of the reasons why we wanted to begin to have artists engage and talk a little bit about the process, the inspiration, the skill level, all of it, just so that when you're standing there in front of it, it's very easy for someone to come into the TAM particularly and walk through and be gone in 10 minutes because they don't stop and stand in front of a piece. But it's important, particularly with this show, where any one of these pieces, if they were hanging on your wall, would engage you literally for hours as you walk, as you just followed the form of the line and discovered something new every time you looked at it.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate your explaining your process, because that's the other thing I'm learning, is that while the elements, paint, masking, turpentine, brushes, whatever it is, while the elements are everybody has them in common, the way they are used, each individual, nobody does it the same way, is striking. And so I agree with you in your shocking adjective.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's true. And it's like finding one's voice as a painter. It's a long game. It takes time. And that's my sense when I look at this work. This isn't work that has arrived at where it's arrived at quickly, because there's such conviction in it and unique voices. And that's an important takeaway I think this show brings.
And I think that what you just said explicitly addresses the issue of AI, and that this level of artistic expression, it just cannot be accomplished by the typing of words in a computer. So you've just summed up the whole show. Were you at the panel discussion?
No,
Because
I was,
there
I
you
was,
go.
I was there, and I do know there's going to be another walkthrough on the 20th. And
Yes.
because I'm in Northern California, I won't make it. But I just for the public, it would be a really nice opportunity.
Yes, I saw that, and Marie has graciously agreed to do a TAMA talk with a curator, which previously we had them mostly with Max for those people who have joined and who have become members. But in this case, I would love to be able to share it with everyone, because I think from a curator, so she has the unique perspective of being a curator, but also having a piece in the show. And so that's, it's like being an actor and a producer, or actor and a director. You have really different, you must use different lenses, and choosing to include yourself in a show of this magnitude. I can't wait to hear. I can't wait to hear more about it. I'm happy to populate a Facebook post with this as well, so people can look at your work in more depth. And of course, I would encourage them to head over to the Torrance Art Museum. This will be up until May 4th, but golly, we are already in the middle of April. So the time is zooming by, and we hope that if you're watching, you've gained a little bit of insight into the process and into Audrey's work. And if you have not yet seen the show, but are watching this, then going into the gallery now with a different perspective, I think is huge. So thank you so very much.
Thank you so much, Janine. It's been a real pleasure. And again, it's always a privilege to be able to share and go in a little deeper about the work. Thank you.